The fungi are a group of microorganisms that belong to the kingdom Fungi and the domain Eukarya. Fungi are a diverse group of non-photosynthetic microorganisms that derive their energy from the degradation of organic materials. There are two types of fungi, the multicellular mold and the unicellular yeast. Mold are multicellular fungi. They have filaments called hypha. Their cells have a cell wall. Most mold can reproduce sexually and asexually. This is a depiction of a mold. Molds are made of complex structures, notably the filaments called hypha. These complex structures are made of many cells. Each of these cells have a cell wall. Most molds can reproduce by means of asexual reproduction techniques or sexual reproduction techniques. On the other hand, yeast are unicellular fungi. Most yeast reproduce by means of asexual reproduction through a technique called budding. Yeast cells have cell walls. Yeast reproduce by means of asexual reproduction. During budding, a yeast cell replicates its nuclei and proceeds to divide its cytoplasm unequally, creating a smaller cell called a bud. The small cell eventually grows into a mature cell. Yeast cells are eukaryotic cells. Therefore, they will have a membrane-bound nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. Yeast cells, like all cells, have a cell membrane. Superficial to the cell membrane, yeast cells also have a cell wall. This is a scanning electron micrograph of a yeast cell. The blue structures depicted at one end of the cell are places where the cell created buds. In summary, molds are multicellular fungi. Molds create filaments called hypha. The cell wall of cells found in molds are made of chitin. Most mold can reproduce sexually and asexually. On the other hand, yeast are unicellular fungi. The cell wall of their cells is also made of chitin. Most yeast reproduce by a means of asexual reproduction called budding. You now should be able to answer the following questions. What are some of the common features seen in mold and yeast? What are some of the differences between mold and yeast? What are some of the differences between yeast and protozoans? Would a drug that targets the cell wall of fungi be also effective against protozoans?